Now or never. That hardened my decision, threatening me with expulsion from sign that contract. Chapter 17, The Man with the Star. How do I start the story of Tom Waits and me? Shall I set it up with a lyric or a song? Will you hear me singing? Or shall I offer up some bittersweet fact of life, some optimistic moral about opportunities? Shall I mention that Tom and I were beautiful beyond compare, and so nourished and inspired by each other's hearts that for a very short time we nearly consumed each other? Love, they used to call it. Our disciples rippled out into the world, followers. You can still see them today. Of course, I remain the unseen image at the Last Supper. Was I ever there? Scholars disagree. Do women have an impact on men, or is it only the other way around? Well, depending on which men you read, I suppose the answer is no. Men alone influence women. What a crock of shit. Tom Waits was from an older musical generation. He'd been around a while, already made his first record 6 years before mine, back in 1973. Waits was singular in his persona, but the novelty of his voice was, in 1977, somewhat disregarded by serious musicians. Oh, that guy who sounds like Louis Armstrong was the bulk of most reactions. But year after year, he was gaining street cred that would surpass all others in his class. One half-starry night, I had gone down to the Troubadour in my beret and elbow-length fuchsia gloves. Tom Waits came out of the kitchen and stood behind the bar. He greeted the bartender with a harumph and pretended he didn't come out to see me. "Hey," was all he and I said to each other. We were potential lovers, growling and scratching out our territory. It felt so good. He sat down by me and ordered a scotch. We drank and talked and laughed until it was closing time. He walked me across Doheny Drive to my car, the infamous orange Vega. There, under the streetlight, Tom took me in his arms, and we danced, swaying and singing to each other in the wee foggy hours. Then the song was over. He opened my door, I sat behind the wheel, and he waved me on my way. Down, down Santa Monica Boulevard, I floated on a cloud until I found the World gas station, the only thing open between home and the Troubadour. I treated the Vega to $1 worth of gas, and we floated heavenward, up, and out the soft waltz between girl and Chevrolet. This ride home became the recipe for one of my greatest songs, The Last Chance Texaco. All the love in the world was mine that night, for I could imagine what it might be like to be loved by a man who dances with a girl under a lamppost as she sings a song he knows well. We are still there, Tom and I. Those two still exist as ghosts of that witching hour, and they are always there under the lamppost dancing. The echoes of their heartbeats, the infinite wrangling of lovers, frenzied and smooth and then exhausted. They recover as the sun rises over the freeways to dream and head west. My ghost always driving west. Waits' fans were worshippers, girls and boys who would camp out on his lawn. Actually, the lawn of Tim Hardin, who had a house in front of Tom's, and wait for their prophet to speak. When he did speak, he would say something like, "Get the fuck out of here and don't come back." You got to do it, Chuck told me, or they will never go home. They'll think you're going to marry him. It was a lesson I regarded with some skepticism. To me, it is a holy bond, the one between song and listener. The obligation by priestess or priest to keep it clean and unfettered is a given. I can just go home and take a bath. I don't want to have sex with someone who has mistaken me for my song. For me, real life does not puncture the veneer of people's imaginations. Those people who use their fans for sex have to decide who they want to hurt in the morning. I was disappointed in how many girls Waits had scratched from his dance card. Great dramatic stories of lovers chasing his cab down the streets of Philadelphia, or more recently, of shame in the Japanese press, that foreign affair. Those personal stories he offered as collateral to future lovers. He had a cult-like ability to gather people to him. His inner circle of friends felt privileged and treated newcomers with secret signs and phrases. His charisma, his compelling spirit, for whatever reason, we all wanted to be a follower of Tom Waits. But the wounded and dying soldiers outside his kitchen door said otherwise. As characters bled into our real life, maybe I was the one who didn't know where real stopped and began. Maybe I invented a new Tom who, like Boo Radley, would come out one day with a voice all his own. It was autumn now. I came to the Troubadour about 9 o'clock and sat at the bar. Waits was there. We both knew why we were there at the same time. Tom invited me home with him. We made love amid his dirty sheets and the clothes in piles everywhere. I didn't sleep very well that night. The path to Tom's bedroom was scrawled through a living room of miniature skyscrapers of record covers and piles of newspapers and old magazines that had gone to seed where they had landed. The bed was the only refuge. There I was safe, worshipped. He was a lion, so much more than his persona could ever contain. I had not expected to be so totally loved for such a brief few hours. The sun was just coming through the motel curtains. I smelled his Old Spice and the Brill cream stuck to his sideburns. I turned and touched him. Should I touch him? You never know what you're supposed to do in the morning. They're like sharks or mad dogs. Should you look your lover in the eye? Tom sat up. The we of last night was no longer there. This morning, I was a stranger in his bed, and he said, "Time for you to go home. I have a lot of work to do today." I inhaled sharply. I must have looked exactly how I felt, like a broken mirror. I acted cool. How was my acting anyway? Did he believe me? I got dressed next to the bed and thought, "Oh, bed, don't let me go." I grabbed my hat and followed him through the labyrinth of his cluttered belongings. I was still standing on the sea. I could not think, and it was hard to breathe. The sun was up, and it was already too hot. I was wearing high heels. I wanted to hide in a bush. I may have hidden behind a bush. I tried to find my car, but I was doing the walk of shame that so many others had walked before me. Shame. I had to face my situation. Was I going to be another ghost sitting around in Tom Waits's peripheral vision, hoping he looked directly at me, hoping for a measly hello? Now I could see that haunted look all around the Troubadour, the shame and addiction to Tom Waits. his broken soldiers paying their sad homage. How did I get drafted into this misery?